Hello everyone, I'm just going to do a quick recording on the Vert stack offense for Ultimate Frisbee and add a few of my thoughts along the way about how this can be improved or defended. So we're going to start with before the pull. Now this is setting up before anyone starts moving around. We're going to have the offense over here and they're going to start to assign roles. Now the roles that are going to be assigned are handlers. They're usually going to choose 2 handlers. It could be 3, but generally 2. So we've got 2 handlers over here. These people are going to be the caretakers of the Frisbee. They're going to be the ones throwing it. Then we've got 5 cutters. These are the people who are going to probably try and run and get the disc. And we're going to have the head of the stack. Now this is where the name Vert stack comes from. Like the pancake stack over here, we're going to have the top pancake. This person's the head of the stack. Okay, then we're going to have first and second cutters. These people will be assigned as the people who are going to do the first lot of running to try and get the Frisbee. The third and fourth people generally won't be required at the first throw, but they will probably be used in the second stacking order because you will continuously do this formation as you move and progress down the field. Once those roles have been assigned, the defense will throw the Frisbee when everyone's ready. Everyone will put their hands up. So the pull will go out to the field and it could land anywhere, but let's say that you get it to the center of the field somehow, okay? Now the main handler will run out and grab this Frisbee, okay? And the secondary handler, this is known as the dump, and I'll explain that a little bit sooner. They will go into their position on the sideline. Now let me just update this heading here. So this is the positions that we're creating now. Now we've got the head of the stack. This is a person who will now run out about 15 to 20 meters away from the main handler, and they will dictate where the stack will start. They can be considered like the plate on which your pancakes may sit. So they are about 1 good throw's distance away from this handler. Everyone else will then stack behind them. Now this main stack, the head of the stack, will call, stack on me, stack on me. And that is a good idea for the defense to know what play they're going to be doing. You're basically yelling what you're going to be playing as an offensive strategy. So now everyone will stack on this person, like so. And at the bottom here, we have got our first and second cutters. Generally, what they will teach you is that the back of the stack cuts first. So this back person is number 1 first cut, and this person is second cut. Alright, now let's show how do we do man on man. So that once the offense is set up like this, they're probably going to expect a man on man setup. That means that these defensive players will run to their players like this. Going 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what's going to happen is this defense is forcing the Frisbee to be thrown in a direction like this. They're forcing towards this end, making this space the place they want the Frisbee to be thrown to, okay? That's why they're aligning themselves on the right-hand side of their offense. So this Frisbee will have to be thrown into this area. The defense will therefore mark this side of their offensive players as a man-on-man. Maybe you might have one person go on this side just to be like a safety or something like that. But generally, they'll mark on the side at which they expect the cuts to be made to. Alright, so that's how the man-on-man setup will generally work. So what about the cut? What's the first cut going to be? Well, we're going to have this person at the back of the stack make the first cut. Their path will be like this. First, they'll run out to the side, doing a general cut like this, taking their defender, who will also be with them. Alright? Now they got to get rid of the defender, essentially. So to do that, they get to decide, will they cut up or down? Now, they can go either this way or this way. Maybe they do a little jink, a little side-to-side movement, and in that side-to-side movement, the defender might move to the under or to the deep space. Let's say, for this example, the defender's guarding the deep space. So we'll take away that cut, and now our player can run under. This cut is being explained by many coaches to be a straight cut. And what I mean by straight cut is it needs to be parallel to the field. It must be straight at this person with the Frisbee or straight up the field. Why? Why do they want you to do this? Why do they not like you to do a diagonal cut? Well, what happens is that when you make a diagonal cut along like this, the defender can come from the side and see the throw or flight of the Frisbee as it's thrown to the offense. That makes it really easy for the defender to come in and get a block. Okay? So to avoid that, what they'll do is they'll tell you to cut in a straight line, either up the field or directly towards the person throwing the Frisbee. That means that the person who is in offense will always be in front, blocking the vision of their defender towards that Frisbee. And the defender will have to either make contact with the offense or do some sort of amazing agility move to get an interception of that Frisbee. So let's say that the handler here, in this case, saw the person who's made this great cut underneath, but has decided that the defender is a little bit too close. So what will they do? They'll just do a flick of the wrist to indicate that they don't want the first cut. Get out of that space now. Your defender's too close. So that will mean that this person who's done a great undercut will now need to make a new cut. And this cut will be towards the end zone space like this, generally on a bit of an angle like this, and they'll start running. This defender is constantly trailing them because on man, it's quite hard to read. They can try and stay as close as they can, but it will generally be like this all the way down to the end zone. Now the offense handler can decide, okay, that this deep cut here has made it enough or a significant amount of distance from the defender, and they might throw that long throw to do down there. But generally, it's a low percentage throw, so let's say that doesn't happen. So we've got the offense has made that cut. It hasn't worked out. They've reached the end of the field. Now their job is to get back to the stack like this. They've got to clear out of the space, clear out of that opportunistic space, and get back to the stack to be reformed into the thing. Now the second offense player will do the exact same cut style. They'll cut out, they'll decide if they want to go deep or under, and they'll follow that path with the defender going along with them all the way around in this order. And that will keep going through the stack until something happens with the handler, which means that they've either thrown the Frisbee to a player here, down deep, or they've passed it over to their dump and reset. Okay, so let's keep that there. Move on to the dump and reset. So what happens is that there is now a dump and reset. The handler has run out of time, essentially. So it's got to stall 6, 7, or 8. They realize that they have got no good cuts, no opportunities, and they need to reset before they run out of time and get stalled out. So what the player will do is they will look directly at this dump player, okay? At which point that dump becomes engaged into the game. So this player now will need to shake off their defender. Hopefully the defender's not too close, but if it is, they'll try and do a little jink under and then go over to the top space. Come over here and get the Frisbee, a short pass there. Or they might have the defender blocking that side, and so they can try and jink it and then get the Frisbee here. A short throw. This is a safe throw. This isn't meant to gain ground. This is simply meant to protect the Frisbee from being stalled out, like this, okay? So you're going to get the Frisbee to this dump reset. Now, once it's on the sideline, it's not very effective. You could probably make a cut from one of these stack, but you're generally going to have the handler then pass it back to the center of the field in order to reset the order. At which point, all these players down here are hopefully back into a stack formation so they can do the next first and second cuts, who might actually be now the other players, the people at the bottom of the stack who've filtered through. All right, so that's now covered. That's how the general vert stack works. What happens when a zone comes on? Okay, so now we're going to change up the defensive strategy, right? We're going to put a zone on. So we're going to do a 3-3-1 here. A simple zone. It's not a puppy stack. It's a simple zone where you're just covering area in space, okay? So we're going to go about this location, this location, this location here. And we're just filling up general areas in this space and then one deep here, okay? What are we looking at from a point of view of an offensive strategy? Okay, well, our cutter here, before, they had a very clear idea of what their cut path was going to be. They're going to come out here, try and get away from their defender and cut directly under. If they don't get it, they'll go deep. But what's happened is, because there's no one actually marking them, everyone as a defensive strategy has marked an area instead of a person. So there's no point even jinking here because they have no one on them, okay? So then they've cut under. They've decided to cut under. But what's happened is they've run basically in the middle of 4 players who all can run and try and get that Frisbee and block it off. This one might come over here. This one might come here, depending on what kind of throw it is. This is no longer an option for them. Or at least you won't get very far, okay? So this person's then gone to book it deep to try and get the same pathway. They're going to see maybe that throw. But what's happening is that this defender was always there along. They saw them run that whole distance anyway. So it's an easy block, an easy defense there. Okay, from there. What does this mean? Well, we've basically got our entire stack doing a subpar cutting strategy, not designed for zone. The vert stack is purely an offensive strategy designed for man-on-man. So if you are a defensive team in this point, and the other team runs a stack, put on a zone straight away, and it will make the other team basically useless when it comes to offense. So therefore, you can see that vert stacks, great for man-on-man, terrible for zone. And in that case, what they'll do is they'll switch from an offensive strategy of vert stack to something like a horo, which I'll explain in a different video. All right, so my review of a vert stack. Well, I generally will never play vert stack because it can be destroyed by zone. And so therefore, I can only give it a poop out of 10. Okay, it's not great. Generally, don't use vert stack. If you're playing a man-on-man defense, okay, then it might work. But as soon as you get to the higher leagues, it's going to start crumbling. And so your offense strategy can either go to a horo, or the more preferred method for myself is to go into an organic structure. Okay, and the organic structure has I'll do another video on that and how that works. But generally, the vert stack is not very good. But it's great to know from a defensive point of view, if someone is running a vert stack against you, just throw in a zone and you'll have covered them completely.